am still alive.
Confirmed. And thank you guys so much for joining us for the entrance. We really appreciate it. How's your day been so far here at Planet?
It's been very busy. It's been nice to see you all. I've never seen so many people in one spot in the space of around 9 hours, and it's been such a pleasure to greet you, sign for you, be photographed with you, and on we go over the weekend.
Amazing. Thank you again for being here. So I'll ask a couple questions and we're going to go right to the crowd.
Great.
But I wanted to know, obviously, Palpatine is highly regarded as one of the most iconic villains of all time. I wanted to know, to you, what do you think makes him such a memorable character?
Well, he's just pure evil, isn't he? I don't know, because as you know,
I understand.
I got acquainted with him over a long period of time. I first met him when I was 37 years old, and then I continued to my present age, I dare say, or maybe a bit older in the last film that you saw to date. So I've learned about him like you, as we've gone along and as the scripts have arrived. And as you know, we get these at the last minute, so it was always full of surprises. But I think the reason that people stick with him is that there's something about him that's more than just the usual sort of evil villain. There's a kind of hidden charm. It has... You don't agree, do you? I can see that. Leave immediately. No. I think behind all that, you know, he has a fairly good sense of humor, and also he's not afraid to say what he really means. And I suppose it can best be summed up in his philosophy, which you know, is expressed in 2 words: do it.
And obviously, working through like prosthetics and makeup can sometimes be challenging, but I was wondering for you, did it help you mentally get into character?
Yes, I'm one of those actors who really likes makeup, and also this was the most extraordinary makeup I put on to date at the beginning of Return of the Jedi, and you probably heard this, but when I saw that face, the voice sort of arrived, because he looked like a terrible reptile, an awful toad. And as you know, toads sort of, you know, have that in their makeup, and so that's how the voice really evolved. So it went from to that kind of voice. And also great Japanese actors. They have the ability not just to speak from the larynx, which is usually where it comes from, but also to speak from the stomach. So that's over there somewhere. And I learned how to do that. And so before I knew where I was, this sort of amalgam of things had made this guy we later found out was called Palpatine.
And my final question for you, obviously you're an accomplished Shakespearean actor as well, and I was curious, do you find any Shakespeare characters are comparable to Palpatine?
Well, it's quite interesting, because I think George was aware when he started the whole idea of the series that it was going to have a kind of Shakespearean movement. You know, it's really a story about the fall of a hero, who is, of course, Anakin Skywalker. But as far as specific characters in Shakespeare, there's a guy in Othello, and I see this production coming to Broadway with Denzel Washington and Jake Gyllenhaal very soon, and Jake will play Iago, who is one of the most evil characters that Shakespeare ever created. And he has a sort of obvious motive. He's been, you know, passed over for promotion and resents that. But there's something deeper and darker inside him. And he just sets out to destroy. So I suppose that would be an example of someone who is a bit like Palpatine. There's also Richard III, who is, again, a great iconic, evil, in inverted commas, character. But he's somebody who's completely obsessed with power. And also, because he is physically disabled, he has, to compensate, a hyperactive mind. And I think as Palpatine gets older and gets, you know, less able to move around, more infirm, the brain never dies. And I think that's what survived all the way into the rise of Skywalker, even though the body was in pretty bad shape, as I'm sure you agree.
All right, so we do have a microphone that's located, as we light it up. So just for time purposes, it's gonna be one question per person and also no requests or anything like that. So let's get started. What's your name? What's your question?
Hi, my name is Amanda. Sorry, I really like Star Wars, so.
Good.
Besides, obviously, Papa Palpatine, who's your favorite Star Wars character?
Well, it has to be, where is he? He's gone to the dressing room. Darth Vader, really.
I like him.
Because I made him everything he is today.
Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
What's your name? What's your question?
Mr. McDiarmid, my name is Chris, and first off, I think I'm going to speak for the rest of the crowd when I say this. Thank you very much for coming to Kansas City this weekend. It means a galaxy to us, so
We're pleased to be here.
thank you. I have a Revenge of the Sith question. So you had a 20-plus year lead up to becoming full Emperor again, so when it came time for that, did any of your co-stars like Hayden Christensen, Christopher Lee, or even Samuel L. Jackson accuse you of having too much fun, or did you have to get permission from George Lucas?
Yes. Well, everything happens with George, you know. But you know, the thing is about doing these movies. I mean, they were hard work, and it was also the beginning of the great new technology of digital technology. And so we were coping with things we'd never seen before. Like, we were used to seeing actors, and occasionally we saw tennis balls, you know, against green screens. So it was a big adventure, and also it was slightly absurd, you know, when you're acting, yes, yeah, that's exactly the response. When you're acting your socks off, you know, to a tennis ball, it occurs to you for a moment you might be totally insane. But then you realize it's going to look wonderful later, so you relax. But yes, the Sith gang were fun to be around. Christopher Lee, in particular, the great late Christopher, who I'd always been his #1 fan, really, as Dracula particularly. And there's an example of an actor who played, you know, an evil character, and he played a good few. But there was always something in addition to the pure evil that was, well, let's use the word, attractive. So you have to find it some way, you know, even in their darkest moments, of those characters being appealing. And people regularly stop me, there's a few today, and say, Palpatine, we love you. And I think, is it too late for you to get a therapist? But then I think, well, no, I suppose it's that word charm I was teasing you with, that people love to love villains. I love to love villains as a kid. And when I started out as being an actor, I was the one who played the baddie. And little did I know I was going to be the baddie of them all.
Thank you, my lord.
Hi, what's your name? What's your question?
Hi. Sorry, can you hear me through the mask? I may or may not have called in sick this morning, so I don't want to assume unnatural ability.
The force be with you.
My question is, what is a funny story or a favorite moment that you have had while on set filming Star Wars?
There's so many of them, really. I suppose it didn't seem that funny at the time, but when I hit Samuel Jackson when I was trying to fight him, and he was very kind. But I got my revenge as character, of course, by, you know, making sure he went through a window and would never ever return, despite rumors to the contrary. That was pretty funny. Thank you.
What's your name? What's your question?
Matthew. So, I have a little bit of a funny question for you.
Okay.
What is your favorite Star Wars meme?
Ah, yes. Well, I'm not too familiar with them, really. But it was so interesting when the meme started, you know, and I thought George wouldn't like that, you know. George was thrilled, you know, he could meme away, he used to say. And it's wonderful how all the characters have become, you know, creatures of plastic, or just become cartoon fantasy characters without actually diminishing their power when you see them in the movies. So that's my general answer to your question, but maybe you'd like to suggest a meme that I might like more than the others.
I love the tragedy of Darth Plagueis the Wise.
Oh yes. Yes, well we all know that story, don't we? Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Joel.
Hello.
You've been playing the same character for over 40 years.
Yeah, I'm still in it tonight, sorry.
Is there any extra preparation to have that consistency for 4 decades?
Well, I don't know, it always sounds so sort of negative when I say it, but I'm just the sort of guy who learns the lines and turns up and hopes that some magic, and often it does occur, on the set will happen because of whoever you happen to be acting with. And I've acted with a lot of really good and interesting people. And most recently in the Star Wars saga, of course, with Adam Driver, who's a considerable force to act with, and Daisy Ridley, who was wonderful to act with, even though she was playing my ultimate betrayer. Yes, no, never trust your granddaughter, is this I got into trouble for saying that in an interview lately, of course, but that was my sense of humor as opposed to Palpatine's. But working with Adam was wonderful. He's so concentrated as an actor, so you get 110% in his eyes all the time. And Daisy she had hate me, of course, but her problem was I was above her and I was flying around on this mechanism, this sort of astral wheelchair that they gave me. And she was frightened I might topple onto her head. There was no real chance of that because there were 4 guys, and they'd strap me in and all the rest of it. But she said she had to concentrate. She kept saying, "Ian, are you all right?" And I said, "Daisy, this is not helping you. I'm loathsome, I'm in a terrible state, I may drop dead any minute. Okay, go." She said, okay, we'll go again, I'm fine. And then J.J. Abrams would go cut and she'd go, "Ian, are you all right?" Thank you.
Right, what's your name, what's your question?
Hello, my name's Safira.
Hi.
What advice would you give an American studying acting in London?
Would I say again?
What advice would you give an American, like myself, studying acting in London?
Advice to an American? Wow, I don't know if I give any advice. I hope they might give me some. That's what I feel about American actors. I mean, you're all so brilliant here. It's in your blood, film acting, and we Brits just sort of caught up over the years, sometimes. And then we have the nerve, some of us, to impersonate your American accent. And get leading American parts in American series. I mean, who do we think we are? So I would be hoping for advice in the other direction, I think.
Thank you.
Right, what's your name, what's your question?
My name is John. I was going to ask about how many takes in the movie when you're acting the part when you had to say, "Do it," and then strike him down. How many takes have to do that?
Yes, the Do It series of takes was quite interesting because we were, please get on and kill Christopher Lee, basically what I'm saying. And that was just, from my point of view, painful. And from his point of view, even more painful when it happened to him. But we were just, we did the scene as you do, a number of times in different ways. And I sort of said, do it a few times in different ways. And then, because we'd done it so many times, kind of for a joke, I went, "Do it!" In other words, for goodness sake, get on with it. And George said, "That's the one." He's clever like that.
Go ahead.
All right, I think you must know how much of an influence you've had on multiple generations. From my mom to me, and then I'm probably gonna pass it down to my own children. How do you kind of cope with the thought that even after you're gonna be gone from this world,
I'm still alive. It's all right, I'm in pain now, go on.
you know, still like a big proponent for a lot of like young people and older people as well.
Yeah, what I like about the movies is that, you know, they're still as potent now, and of course there are more of them, as they were then, you know, when we all started out. And I wasn't sure that would necessarily be the case. Wise George said about prequels, he said, well, those are people who grew up, well, like himself really, with the middle films, you know, with the first three that were made, will still feel that the early ones, the prequels, aren't good enough. But the kids, by which he meant, I think, anyone from the age of 8 upwards, would appreciate them more. And we all went, well, maybe right. And of course, he was dead right. And sort of the younger people told people of my generation how to watch them and what they might be missing if they were just, you know, generalizing about how much less interesting they were than the middle three. And now you know, from people I know who are very young, other people's grandchildren, I learned that they love watching them, and of course they can watch them in sequence, which was always denied us. Even though some people still prefer to go to the middle and back to the beginning and then on to the end again. But I think, yeah, but I think it must be really interesting just to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Thank you.
Hi, what's your name?
Hi, my name is Gabriel, and my question is, what was your favorite moment from Star Wars?
Favorite moment? Yes, there were so many of them, really. My favorite scene was certainly Darth Plagueis the Wise, because that started off, that was going to be another scene in the office, in another very spectacular office. And the thing about Palpatine's offices, they got bigger. I mean, there wasn't too much green screen. Of course, there was green screen out of the window. But the offices themselves were big, big sets. And for that scene, that was going to be played on an even bigger set, because he was getting more powerful. Apparently, more powerful people get bigger offices. I didn't know that. I learned that on Star Wars. That's interesting. But then George said, you know, I won't do his voice again, because he does it better than me. When we came to do that scene, George said, I have an idea. I think maybe we should do it in a theater. And, you know, you might like that, Ian, because you run a theater. I did run a theater at that time, and you're a theater actor. And the great thing about that was that we were in chairs not unlike this, actually, with nothing behind us. Everything was added later. Hayden was there, I was here, and we just had each other's eyes. But because we were in front of a performance